Hey everyone, what's going on? I wanted to put together this video to quickly talk about 3 factors that most people completely overlook before they ever start their job search. You think through these things so you know what the best next step is, and so you set yourself up for success, right? So factor number 1 is what I call thinking big versus acting practically. Let me say that again. Thinking big versus acting practically. So how that looks in real terms is, in these strategy calls, sometimes I'll talk to somebody and I'll say, well, what is it that you hope to do, right? What do you want to be doing? What are your long-term goals? And they'll say, oh, I really want to be heading up product management for an awesome tech company. And I'll say, great. And when we dive deep and we peel the onion back, we may find that they have actually 0 existing product management experience, or B, they don't have any sort of transferable skills that lend itself to making a career transition into product, right? So then what do we do in that case? Do we give up the goal of being a product manager? Not at all. We just now have to think, what is the practical best next step that allows us to get from where we're at today to being a product manager? For some people, that might be taking a project manager role, which is what a lot of product managers actually do as they're making their way into product. For other people, it might be leveraging their existing experience and their current skills to land a job at a much larger company, or a company that's going to actually help them get from where they're at today and train them to become a product manager over time. And for others, it might be taking a bootcamp course, right, in product management and really understanding the foundations. Who knows what it is? But the idea that most people sort of blindly think is that, oh, I want to be a product management, so I'm just going to go and look for a bunch of product manager jobs. But if you don't have the experience, then that is not the practical next step. And what's going to happen is you're going to hit the job market and you're going to get really discouraged because you're not going to get interviews. You're definitely not going to get job offers. So what you always want to be thinking about is, what is my long-term goal? And then what is the best practical next step that allows me to get there? So if it's product manager, do you have product manager experience? Yes, great. No, then what, do you have transferable skills to be in that role? No. Okay, then what do we need to do next to help us get to an organization that allows us to start moving closer and closer into product management, right? So again, project management, boot camps, a lot of different things you can think about. So the next thing that I see people completely overlooking is in their job search strategy, and even failing to think about in their career long term, is what I call small fish in the ocean, big fish in a pond, right? So depending on where you're at in your career, if you're later in your career, if you're early in your career, it benefits you to either be the big fish in the small pond, right, or the small fish in a big ocean. So typically, if you're earlier in your career, you would want to be a smaller fish in a bigger pond, right? So that means maybe taking an entry-level role or a junior role or associate role, whatever it might be, at a much larger company with a much bigger reputation and like a great brand name. Because 1, it allows you to really learn the things you want to learn. 2, it allows you to gain the experience you want to gain. 3, it allows you to rack up accomplishments. 4, it allows you to work with so many other talented people, right? So if you're early in your career and you want to take a job at Google, you're going to learn so much because naturally you're going to be working with so many smart people, and you're going to potentially have the opportunities to work on very forward-thinking projects, right? That really stretch your skill set, that really stretch your way of thinking, and help you to operate outside of your comfort zone. But now on the flip side, if you're later in your career and you've already done that, it might actually benefit you to be a much bigger fish in a smaller pond. And that happened to me when I was at Overstock. Overstock is a big company, but it's not nearly the size of Amazon, of Wayfair, of all these other companies. But I was the big fish there. And what that allows you to do is, 1, it allows you to make a much bigger impact. 2, you probably are going to get much better pay. You might even get stock options. You might get so many different things. And at that point in your career, you don't want to be the one fighting to keep making promotions and keep moving on up the career ladder. You just want to be in a company that values the experience that you've gained over the years, and allows you to act autonomously, allows you to be in a leadership role if that's important to you, pays you extremely well, and it just makes your life much more enjoyable. So you're not waking up every day constantly trying to, fight the rat race. Instead, you've already won, right? So think about that. If you're early in your career, consider looking at bigger companies where you can gain much more experience, work with extremely talented people, and rack up some accomplishments earlier on, so that you can then leverage those accomplishments and capitalize on them, right? And if you're later in your career, consider going to a smaller company. And even though you might not think it's sexy from this outset, right? A lot of people I talk to, they always want to work at Google, Amazon, all the FANG companies, Netflix, Facebook. But then when we, again, peel the onion back and we realize all they really want is they want to work at a company that's doing great things, that values what they bring to the table, that's going to pay them really well, and then give them a good lifestyle, right? And you can find that in so many ways. It doesn't have to be at just the FANG companies. So that's factor number 2, okay? Big fish, small pond versus small fish, big ocean. And then lastly, and this I think is the most important, and I hear this, you won't imagine, but I hear this literally all the time, which is, I just want work-life balance. I just want work-life balance. And when I talk to somebody and they tell me that they want work-life balance, and we really start peeling the onion back, in that case, what we find is they're working for a company that they either hate for multiple reasons, right? Their boss is not great, they're extremely overworked, they're underpaid, they're stressed out, the culture is extremely toxic, they're being passed up for promotion, and if you do this, think about this, if this is you and you've been doing this day in, day out for years, of course all you're going to want to do is get as far away from that as possible, and the thing you're going to think you really want is balance. But if you think about it, it's not really balance that you're looking for. You're just looking for a better situation. And let me dive a little bit deeper on that. So imagine up here, you have your professional life, and down here, you have your personal life, okay? So up here, if you're in a situation that's extremely toxic, where you're completely stressed out, where you're overworked, you're undervalued, you're underpaid, all of these negative things, bad boss, toxic culture, whatever it is, if you do that day in, day out for years, naturally, that's going to start seeping into your personal life, right? Because you're going to hate what you're doing up here, where you spend most of your waking hours, and then you're going to go home. And of course you won't be happy because your day was so shitty just to begin with. So by the time you're doing anything personal, you're not fully present, you're not fully enjoying it. You might be depressed, you might be snapping at friends, family, you might not be there to support your friends or family the way you really want to, right? There's so many things that happen. And so then when you're negative, when your personal life is being negatively impacted because of all the things here, that then goes right, you take all those negative things and it goes right back into work. And then negative work, negative personal life, negative personal life, negative work. And it's this sort of vicious cycle that you will experience. And maybe some of you have actually already experienced that, right? So what you're not really looking for balance, right? Because you might actually, technically you have the balance, but what you might be looking for instead is work-life harmony. Right, so that's the third and most important factor, is be sure that you know the difference between work-life balance versus work-life harmony, okay? And so if you are now, think about the other side. So if you're in a company that values what you do or what you bring to the table, that gives you autonomy, that pays you extremely well, that's putting you into a position where A, you're being recognized, B, you're being valued, C, you're being constantly promoted, or you're being given new responsibilities so you get the growth that you want, and the pay, and the great boss, and the great culture. Now, if there's days in that environment where you have to work a little bit longer than some other days, that's okay, because you actually love what you're doing, right? So then things up here are going really well, even if you work long hours sometimes, and then you come down here and you're really happy, Because up here, where you spent most of your waking hours, you were really happy. So naturally down here in your personal life, you're also going to be happy. And if you're happy in your personal life, meaning you can show up for your friends, your family, your kids the way you should be, you're able to provide for them, you're able to really be present for them, you're able to do the things that you want to do, then naturally work is going to go well. And then if work goes well, personal life goes well. If personal life goes well, work goes well, right? So then now it's this upward moving sort of circle instead of this vicious cycle that goes downward, right? So let's quickly recap. The 3 factors that you should be considering before you start any search is 1, big fish, small pond, right? Versus small fish, big ocean. The other factor is thinking big versus acting practically. And then lastly is knowing the difference between work-life balance and work-life harmony. All right. I know this video was a little bit longer than you expected, but I really hope that you got some value out of it. If these are any of factors that you're currently thinking through or want to think through, or you're dealing with some of this stuff right now with your own job search, reach out to me and I'm happy to talk. All right. Take care and have a good day. Bye.